Hello, everybody. Welcome to the October energy update. So, boy, oh boy, this is like we're on October 4th. I'm making this. It is again a few days later than I thought it would maybe be coming out, but this one was an interesting one because I really had to sit a few different times and I was kind of having some different conversations with some friends and just like really grasping what this purge of energy was really meaning. Because when I was first sitting with this in October, I'm like, okay, well, there's a few things that's always happened in October, right? Our veil becomes a lot thinner October. That's where the whole Halloween thing partially comes from, and those experiences in the energetics with the veils being thinner and all the things, right? So that's nothing new. That's something that happens every single year. But the thing that was very different to me this year was the fact that one, I do know that the veils have not gone back up the same way in the last couple of years, that the veils themselves and the realms and the interactions that we've been having as we've been continuing to ascend on Earth, how our interactions are different now. And it's just this one thing after, recognizing, okay, yes, there's been a lot of energy shifts, there's been lots of stuff happening, especially over, the course of this year particularly. And it was just a really interesting interaction that started to happen where I was really wondering, okay, what is October really going to entail this year? Because it feels a little different than what it maybe has been from before. So when I was sitting and really thinking and feeling into this, um, more feeling into this energy, and then thinking about how am I going to put this into words? Because it is a kind of a really intense energy purge, and that's all that kept coming up was like this purge of energy. And I mean, like all that started coming to my brain was that those terrible movies, the Purge movies, like those horror movies about all the terrible things where people go out and do the, in those movies. And it's like, no, it's not that, but it is in an energetic sense, a purge of energy. And it's like this. So the the biggest thing again is like purging of energy is more permanent, I would say. Like this is not just we experience it and then it kind of lingers or it comes back in like a lot of different ways as we move forward. This is like an energy clearing in a way and releasing that is really old shit. Like I hate to put it like that, but that's kind of what it's really entailing. And that could come generational, so down each of our own lines as individuals and families, but also collectively. So on the larger scale of this, you think back to the times of, the Salem witch trials and when people were literally being punished just because of the fear of something else or a different opinion and literally being killed for it, right? There was just like that was the intensity of energy of those times, but we're moving into a space now where so many are choosing more of that mm, awakening to their own self, their own empowerment, choosing something that is more aligned with a new way of living, not wanting to continue to repeat all the old patterns from the generational things that have happened here collectively and individually. So, for a lot of people, that purging of some of the generational stuff has definitely been going on for a little while, especially individualistic. But this is more at a heightened sense of like the whole collective, but also maybe some of the really intense parts of patriarchal systems, those types of things that might pop up in generational lines as well. So if you feel like there's a lot seemingly kind of one day it's, rainbows and butterflies, and the next day it's like deep dark, like holy Christ. You know, this duality kind of sense has been always kind of there in previous months. There's been some talk about the duality, but this is the duality being experienced almost in multiple timelines at once. And I know that was kind of a little bit of a workup of what was kind of happening in September and over the summertime a little bit too, but it's just like this is where it just comes into play in a whole different way. So it's like, you know, it's almost hard to explain because you'll be in it, you'll have a sensation of it, and you'll know exactly kind of what I'm talking about probably, but it'll be this moment where and the great examples of someone saying something or one thing and not even probably recognizing that they're saying it or they're consciously saying it. It's like it really is coming from like generational stuff or old collective ways of being, or what maybe would have been said way back when. And you're kind of like, where did that kind of come from? That seems like it's just so old. Like it's those kinds of feelings of what is kind of like this energy purge, right? It's like it might be expressed through certain people at certain times as a way of coming out. It might be just you kind of might see or observe people in a bit of a different way and recognize some different things coming out. Again, it's like they just keep saying like try to be totally non-judgmental, because this is a lot of energy movement that is going to be permanent, right? So when it's going to be more permanent, sometimes the intensity of the duality can really bring it in a physical aspect. One, that makes sometimes no sense at all, but two, almost like I was talking with a good friend of mine the other day. We were talking a little bit how it feels almost like multi-personality kind of things start to happen, where it's like, where did that come from? That's not normally how I would figure you would often react, because you've never really reacted like that before. It's those kinds of things that I would say be really observant of, because I almost guarantee you it likely has nothing to do with you in the first place. But if you can recognize some of the pattern that might be being moving out, may give you some serious understanding about certain people's reactions. And some people might get almost embarrassed or guilty feeling because they didn't want to react like that. Or, someone said, well, why did you say it like that? Like that just seemed so out there. And for that person, they might actually become extremely uncomfortable because they might not even recognize that they had said it. And so there might be a little bit of internal conflict that might happen with some people if they're um, either challenged on it or brought forward by somebody and they don't actually recognize that that's how they said it or how it came out in that sense, right? And that can cause some real discomfort in certain people, because for all of us, we've all been so trained to say, well, you're in control of yourself, and that's the only thing you can do. And if someone tells you one thing over another, then it doesn't feel true to you. It gets to be kind of uncomfortable, right? So I wouldn't say you're to try and challenge anybody on it, but just to stay really observant and really aware of even not just yourself, but definitely around other people, because you might see some of that old energy being purged in a way that doesn't always feel great, but the intensity and the duality of it is definitely something that still needs to be observed, addressed, and accepted, because we do have a duality here, so it's not like it's all just one way. It's a part of our experience, and it's part of why we've come here to have an experience, is because of the duality and the intensity that allows us to feel in a level that is not really available in much of the other parts of the universe. So this is, yes, very intense place to be, but also it's sometimes one of the most rewarding to understand and learn how we can actually be a part of that duality and accept both sides of it without any kind of judgment necessarily. So the other word that also kind of came up was, now, if you're religious, if you have beliefs around this word, I am not using it in any type of way where I'm like saying this is exactly what it is, okay? But it was just the kind of word that came up as well with the duality aspect of this, is like the word the devil, the darkness, the manipulative type of energy that can exist. And of course, we create that often because that's what we're choosing to create a lot of the time. It's not something that's just like naturally in existence. That's just naturally the duality. And what we choose to do with that is a whole different aspect. But the thing about it is like, it's not to say that there is such a thing as this heavy, dense devil or shadow that just looms over everything. But if you have a 50-50 duality like we do, you can't have the dark without the light, and you can't have the light without the dark, to the understanding that we're looking to understand ourselves. So the devil or the darkness or what you might see come out of certain aspects or situations or things or what might be going on, instead of just constantly being like, oh, it's a horrible world, oh, this is just shit, I'm going to ask you to challenge yourself to try and say, what is being purged? What is this old stuff that's coming up to try and be let go of, so that our world can continue moving in a very different way? We're moving more towards authenticity. We're moving more towards a duality that's not necessarily 50-50. It's going to start swinging in a higher frequency way, which, if you want to call it the light, call it the light. But it's swinging now in a way because enough people are being conscious about, themselves and choosing something that is a higher frequency and allowing the earth to move with these integrations that she's choosing to make as well. But of course, within change, there is chaos. And of course, within that change, we see both sides of our duality. And it is intense, right? It is not always the most easy thing. And if it brings up a lot of emotion in you, I challenge you to ask yourself where the emotion is coming from. Is it just me experiencing the duality, or is there something really in here that obviously maybe I have a belief about that doesn't resonate very well with who I am today? So, or who I'm wanting to be in my authentic self. And if it doesn't resonate with your authenticity at a soul level, it usually doesn't feel very good, or it can be very challenging or very confusing or frustrating. So, and the duality of our world is just meant for that. It's exactly that. It's meant to teach us about ourselves more than anything else. And yet at the same time, we can actually use that to have clarity around certain collective things maybe that are also happening, right? So as we move through the month, I mean, the intensity of it is going to kind of ramp up yet still with this kind of big purge of energy that's happening. So they're kind of showing me 17th, 18th of October. It feels a little bit more where the wave kind of comes down a little bit and things settle out a little bit more. So it's maybe not as intense, but I wouldn't say that's going to end. It's probably going to still continue throughout the month of October, maybe into the beginning of November, once we kind of start to hit some different energy, again, energy waves. So there's going to be some intensity for the next little bit. But as we kind of move towards Halloween, particularly at the end of the month, then we are kind of going to be in a really interesting place to observe how the veils feel. And what I kind of mean like that is it's just going to be a different kind of Halloween. Um, I will touch a little bit on like kind of what I'm being shown here, but just give me 1 second to sort my thoughts. So with Halloween, I mean, everybody's been taught different things, or if you've researched different stuff, or if you've looked into lots of different things. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody's got lots of information that has come from, different times, different ways people would do things, why they would do things, what they were honoring, what it was all about. And I think it's really neat, but because at the same time, that's how a lot of the knowledge was passed down was through stories or experiences of, this or that from elders or other people. And that was kind of brought down the generations. And so don't get me wrong. I mean, there's lots of different things that a lot of people could understand or see Halloween as being. But for me, at an energetic level, the energy around Halloween is always when the veils have been a lot thinner. So it's been really easy for people to connect with loved ones or connect with, if you want to call it spirit in general, just into some different frequencies that just maybe weren't always so easy to connect into throughout the rest of the year because of where we were at a frequency level on Earth as well. But the thing about that, as I mentioned, is it's changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. So Halloween this year is going to be really fascinating. It's going to be a time to really embrace this new energy that is coming into play because it is going to be a lot of fun for one. Halloween could have a lot of light bulb moments for some people too. Maybe just a lot of stuff that either you have researched or heard, and all of a sudden it clicks into your own resonancy of what resonates and what's your truth out of all that at a soul level. So it's almost like being able to, I don't know, it's a really neat sensation of being able to read about things or see different people's stories or perspectives about Halloween. And all of a sudden, then it's like, oh, I know what makes sense out of all this for me, like what resonates for me. And it's not like a battle in the mind. It just feels like truth, right? It just simplistically almost feels like, wow, it never really made sense before, but it's really starting to make sense now. And it's almost like that's what a part of this purge is always going to be about too, by moving out some of that old stuff that's maybe repeated, quite a few different times throughout our systems or collectively, that starts to move out in a different way that's more permanent. Then we have all this different space to be playing in different kinds of energy that we maybe have not been able to embrace to the full extent of it before because we just weren't at a point yet as a collective, as one, but also as individuals, because our earth has also chosen to be in a different frequency now. So Halloween will be a really interesting few days. You'll probably get a couple days before and a couple days after. And then of course, right on that day is, I don't know, they just keep saying like just go and enjoy it as much as you can. Like I know a lot of people maybe want to honor ancestors or honor the dead or, do a lot of different things. And that's fine because, again, that's maybe coming from culture or tradition or whatever was kind of passed down from before. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to still, hold whatever you feel resonant with. But at the same time, I think that to challenge yourself a little bit on actually really just enjoying being in the energy, because our honoring systems of, the past loved ones or ancestors, it's just like there's been so much of that and so much ancestral work too going on for so many over like the last year or two that I feel as though there's been so much release that they kind of want to set this up differently going forward because it's more of this place where they want to feel a part of it and rather just being honored to say, yeah, thank you for everything you all have done. We're going to try and continue doing the best we can here. But it's almost like let's realign and start walking again together, because the veil is not going to be the same ever again. It's just getting actually thinner and thinner. So as thin as you may feel it around Halloween is going to probably become more of the norm as we continue on in the next 3 to 5 years. So it's not something that is going to, again, more permanent change, right? Like it's the energy that's not consistently fluctuating to go back to a state of being. It's us choosing to ascend with this energy, but also then now kind of creating a very different way of being within it. So this purge is great for energy wise, but what can also start to happen is a little bit of anxiety and overwhelm can start to hit certain people because it's going to feel like, oh, I should be having a plan or man, I should have thought this out already, I should have been more prepared. Um, that's probably how your brain might conceptualize some of the energy purge. Because when space is kind of made, if your body's used to or your brain's used to having more of that energy filled, even though it might just be coming from the collective aspect of things, it can be really tough sometimes for us as individuals because our brain, if we haven't kind of already told our brain, like it's okay to be uncomfortable or it's okay that we don't have everything figured out, your mind might kind of jump on that a little bit and want to try and really put a plan together. And it's interesting because a lot of the time fall feels more of that time of like letting go, letting go what doesn't serve anymore as individuals, all the things. And I mean, that's totally still relevant, but we're doing that at a kind of higher level again this year. So the purge is of energy is a little more intense. It's going to move some stuff out. So if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or if you're feeling a little bit like I all of a sudden feel like I need to be, making sure I've got more of a plan and doing all these things and like even for myself it kind of hit me just a little bit the other day where it was like, I don't know what I'm doing again. Like, this just doesn't seem quote unquote like logical in certain aspects as well. It's like almost this really tough point in the mind starts to happen where it's like, well, logically in reality, those kinds of words might want to start coming up and then your soul's like, yeah, but this is actually a time for us to stand still and just be a part of the letting go of energy rather than trying to chase and fill that up with some other kind of energy, right? So that's again probably where this feels a little bit different too, because I know there's a lot of people that can get super creative in October. They feel like they've got lots of really good ideas, and maybe they take some action on those ideas and, get things moving in that aspect. And there's nothing wrong with doing some of that. But I would say slow it down just a hair because of what's coming. Again, I can't even put it in tangible aspect of like to tell you exactly what that is. But what I can feel coming is very different and it's so important to still be able to be in stillness and not feel like just because you're being still doesn't mean you're not having a whole bunch of things still happen, right? Either that's prep in the energy or integration of something that's going on. Maybe you're taking a little bit more time to sit with some of your ideas because you're wanting to follow the one that is of the highest excitement or is of the most relevance, to where you feel pulled to being, even if it doesn't make logical sense. A lot of the times when we're just instantaneously chasing ideas and making them, taking action on them, a lot of the time it's probably to actually align with what our logical mind thinks should probably happen. So with this energy purge, you might feel more of that kind of coming on. I need to have a plan. I need to figure out things. I need to, get get this stuff sorted or make a decision or whatever, however your wording might come through. But I ask you to pause in that moment because it is a place where you're reteaching your body to accept new energy, but without feeling like you have to chase, plan, or figure your entire life out in the next 5 minutes. So again, there's a little bit of that intensity of the duality, right? That's where they just joked and said that's where some of you might think you've got a devil and an angel sitting on each of your shoulder, right? And each one is talking in an ear. And now you just feel overly confused because, there's a logical side of the physical reality, and that's what your conscious mind is supposed to make sense of. And then you've got your other part of yourself, which is your higher self and full energy, energetic self that understands everything at an energetic level, but sometimes they don't always mix mash when it comes to the conscious self. And so that's where the work comes within you to try and stay still rather than chase what you feel like you need to figure out. Okay. So the purge energy is going to clear out a lot of old stuff. It's going to clear out some stuff at the collective level as well. I mean, we've seen some of that workup already happening, right? We've seen some of that already coming to light. We've seen some things that people are sometimes having a hard time accepting, that they've been duped or that all this stuff has been going on. And it's not always been the easiest thing for everybody to accept, which is fine because nobody really likes to have the challenge of realizing that they may have been lied to or they believed something that did not resonate. And that's fine. It's not for you to judge yourself on, but it is something that we've been working through for a good portion of this year. So now we're getting to the point now where it's kind of starting to tip the scales a bit, right? So with some of this stuff happening in the collective terms of things, we're going to start to see some more of that resolve coming, which is, I mean, parts of it are going to be truthfully coming from an authentic place, and other parts, of course, maybe don't feel so much like they're necessarily coming from 100%, truthful and authentic place. But again, we're working our way up there, remembering in the collective consciousness of things, sometimes stuff can take a little bit longer because it is a big group of people that have to, sort of get on board with changing the collective energy to a certain level so that truth and authenticity start to rise above anything else. And that's starting to happen. So have some faith because it is starting to happen. There is going to be more and more of this. What has been coming out, you're going to see a little bit more of this resolve starting to come at a collective level for certain stuff as well. And that's going to be all across the world, guys. This is not just talking about our own countries. We're talking about across the entire world. And I'm not asking you to go chase the news. I'm not asking you to go and find out exactly everything that's happening. You're going to drive yourself bonkers. Please don't do that because there is a lot of energy within that in itself that can be very heavy and very conflicting between the duality of things as well. So I wouldn't say go and chase it, but if you're hearing about things, really, again, just give yourself some grace and understanding and knowing things will always get better. Nothing can always stay exactly where it is. And so for a lot of the things that are coming to the surface or breaking down right now, there's going to be a lot more resolve coming with that. And this purge feels like that's kind of like another big push for a lot of this old energy to get out the door. So in the next, coming into the next part of this year, I mean, we really don't even have that many months left, which is wild, but 2025 is coming to an end and we're going to move into 2026. And 2026 is a year of like, the only thing I can keep coming back to is a year of rebuilding, like building this whole entire sense of new ways of being, way more authentically living, not just people, but more at a collective level and social standards. I don't even like to call it that, but that's kind of what it feels like, where maybe there's a lot more things that aren't constantly being all put into one box, so there's a lot of rebuilding in a way that's going to be a lot more authentic for probably a lot of people, but they're also going to choose that, right? We still have to be choosing that. We're not sheep. We're not here to just follow the leader. We've been doing that for a long time now, right? So that's the thing about it too, is it'll be in an individualistic, but it will also come together as a more of a collective deal as well. But again, you still have to be in a perspective of being able to see those things and being able to stay in a neutral state, especially when the challenging things pop up, so that you can decide what your own truth is and where your authenticity lies within those situations, people, places, and things. So as we move into the next part of this year, there will be some resolve that's going to start to happen in certain stuff. Like I said, that'll be all across the world. But at the same time, there might be some more challenge that might be brought up in certain aspects because of what some of that resolve might actually bring out as information. So again, the purge of energy helps with us to be able to see clearly what our own truth is and where we want to resonate with more of our own authenticity, but with others and other people around us and people and, whatever it is. But that purge of energy is going to be at times very intense and very strange. Like that's the only word that I can really use for you because Strange is about the only thing that kind of covers the vibrational frequency of some of what you might, see happen or be a part of, or, you might just happen to be in a place and be like, that was just the strangest interaction. Why did that person say it like that? That just feels like a really old sense of language. That just feels like just really strange, right? So the strange seems to be the word of the month for October, which is rather fitting because, again, people will probably relate that a little bit to Halloween and all the things, but this is a strange, it's going to be different, and you'll know what I'm talking about because I'm sure most of you that are going to listen to this are going to have some kind of situation or something happen that you're going to be like, wow, that was strange, and strange to a level that I am not fully thinking I've probably ever felt quite to that degree before. And it's not going to be a scary strange. It's just going to be different. And it's just going to be that place where you're going to experience the duality in a little bit of a different way than probably what we have ever really experienced at a conscious level before. So the more aware you are, of course, the more you're probably going to pick up on. And it's not to say that, you don't have to be super hyper aware to catch on these things. It can just be as simple as analyzing a certain conversation, but without thinking about it and feeling more into it and being like, wow, that was strange. Yeah, right. So I'm not saying it's got to be like over the top by any means, but it will be a very interesting month to just kind of see where a lot of this will go. And honestly, if you are feeling more of that duality and you are getting rather uncomfortable with it, I would just simply start to ask yourself, what about it is it that is making you uncomfortable? Or if you can't come up with that answer and there's nothing really there, I would say the best thing to go and do is sit in meditation and go and sit in like your safe spot where you feel really peaceful, where you feel really safe. And that would be a great place to kind of explore maybe some of the duality, because as long as you feel safe, you'll see more clearly. But if you're not feeling safe or you're feeling a little bit unsure, your body goes, ooh, I don't know. Are we actually in trouble? Do we actually need to be fearful? Um, for life, even though it's just a thought process, but your body doesn't know the difference, right? So if you're picking up on maybe something that doesn't make you feel very safe, and that's probably why you're not necessarily maybe getting any clarity or not totally sure why, you don't have any answers for yourself coming through if you are kind of questioning. So I would suggest that you go into a meditative state and make sure you can create the space with yourself, and your team or loved ones or whoever you're very comfortable with on the other side. Or if you're newer to that, it's okay. Just call in your guides to help you create a safe space that you feel safe. And the whole important piece is if you feel safe, then you'll be able to kind of explore that part of the duality without having the emotion attachment of fear or anything like feeling that to the level of being a conscious human being as we normally are on a daily basis right now. So play around with it, be very observant of other people. Just be very observant of the way things might be said, of how maybe you even maybe let something come through and you're like, wow, that's not normally how I would say something, or wow, that just doesn't seem like totally mine and mine alone. And what I mean again by that is like that could be some of that generational stuff coming forward to be let go of, right? And some of us might have to say it in this physical aspect for us to just help that energy flow to continue to release, right? I mean, we can think through things all we want, but that was our game kind of beforehand, right? We were doing more of that mental work beforehand. We are in the physical parts of this now. So you may have to express some things a little bit differently. And if you feel like you're going to implode and you're like, man, I just got to get it off my chest, you don't always have to say it to somebody else if you don't feel like it's going to be a good space to do that in. You can release that however you need to, whether, you send yourself a voice note or you write it on a piece of paper, or maybe you just go out in the field and scream. I don't know, whatever it is. But if it feels like, man, this isn't always normal for me to feel like this, or this is a very intense emotion that feels a little different again compared to how I normally might react or how I'm kind of used to my body reacting to, then it's probably kind of a signal to you as well that that could be some of that energy purge and some of that energy being released through us as individuals as well as on the collective. So I hope you guys have a fabulous October no matter what, but I do caution you to stay the best you can in a place where you are highly observant, not just of yourself, but very much of other people. And do not take anything personally. I know that's come up many times before, but this is like the more observant you can be, the more it'll actually probably click and make sense to you, especially knowing that there's a massive energy purge that of all the old kind of moving out on more of a permanent basis. And again, remember that like when change becomes permanent, it's intense shit, right? I mean, it's intense. I mean, it's not this gentle thing often that comes through and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, look, we've done change, in a reflection mode. I mean, some of the most intense change comes from the most intense reactions of letting go, of releasing. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And October might be a little bit of a wild ride in that sense. But if you're feeling super just like, I don't even know what to do with myself anymore, or I feel like I'm just super overwhelmed, or my anxiety seems to be kicking into place, my number one question would be, again, ask yourself, is it mine? Because it very well might not be. Maybe you're letting some of that go from the collective energy of things too, right? If you're a man or if you're a woman, you're probably going to have some very different experiences within this energy purge. So if you catch yourself and you're like, oh man, this isn't me. First off, again, I would say, what is you in the first place? Because all of us are energy sources and all of us are energy pods in which then energy does pass through. And sometimes it's not always just our own. And so ask yourself if it's yours in the first place. Ask yourself then, okay, if it doesn't really quite feel like all of mine, is this a part of this release? Right? And your body will probably relax when you finally kind of hit on the spot because it's going to literally tell you in an emotional state of relaxation in the body that you've now just hit on exactly what you were trying to figure out of maybe what was the energy. You might not always figure out where it's coming from or who or what it's exactly in relation to. Does not matter. That might be your brain wanting the stories, but it does not actually matter. It matters more that you understand energy is going to flow and it's going to flow through every single person as well, and that we can be acknowledging of where it's coming from. Is it instantaneously going to make you go away? Maybe not, right? Because maybe you at a soul level has kind of chosen at an energetic point that you'll be a little bit of this anchor to flow out or release whatever is kind of going on. You still can have the understanding that it's okay though. It's okay just to be in this moment right now. This anxiety is not going to last forever because why it can't, for one, but also when you kind of start to get a little bit of clarity around what it is, it also helps the brain to not want to jump onto the control piece, right? And again, that's maybe where some of the default might be. I need to plan my life. I need to make decisions. I need to get things figured out. So if you're feeling at those high points or really intense points and you can't just kind of think through it a little bit or feel through it in your own way, go to meditation or go and do something that gets your brain into a meditative state where it's more quiet. The quieter your brain is, the more you'll be able to feel, the more you can feel. It's your number one first language, the more it'll actually make sense to you, even if there's no actual words entailing it. So it's just going to be a day by day, because everything is going to just kind of be exactly that, day by day, moment by moment, and it's going to be a different ride for every single person. So if you feel like someone else is having a lot more stranger experience than you are, that's okay. It's not to have a comparison being like, am I doing something wrong? Am I supposed to be having just as many? No, it still comes back down to the individual piece and what we've decided also to learn here. So just allow for that energy to flow in the way it needs to flow, but challenge yourself to be very observant of a lot of the things around you without any kind of judgment, though. So do your best to stay neutral, do your best to observe the best you can, and then, of course, go through and do what you need to do for yourself to continue, to somewhat navigate this in a way that is not putting you in like this detrimental state of being by any means. But at the same point, if that is something that's happening, please don't be ever afraid to reach out to me. I still do readings. We can talk about things. Even if you're just looking for like a little session, I might be opening up some different stuff here in the next little bit just because of these very strange experiences that some people might start to have more of. So I hope you guys have an absolute wonderful month no matter what. And I hope this helps you with a little bit of awareness of what's coming. And it's, again, not to scare you. It's not to use it in that way, but we do have a duality. It does need to be addressed in every single one of us. And the more we can do that, the more that you will have more clarity and feel probably a little bit more stable as all this crazy purging of energy is going to continue to happen for the next little while. So I hope you have a fabulous Halloween at the end of this month, if it's something you celebrate or do anything with. I just love the energies. As for me, actually, I used used to never put any of my readings on Halloween because it was a very interesting day to have doing any kind of readings. So if you're my fellow readers, you all might giggle a little at that because I know some of us are kind of like that, and then there's others that I know were more keen to do readings on Halloween. So, I mean, every year is different again. I think this year is going to be very different. I think it'll be really fun to do readings on Halloween this year. So we'll see what happens. But I hope you guys all have an amazing month, and I will see you all on the next episode.